How you could be easily misled by retirement researcher ne'er-do-wells. So we're going to look at this white paper from 2006. How household portfolios evolved after retirement, the effect of aging and health shocks. All right, so I like this paper. I think these guys did a good job. So they're not the financial ne'er-do-wells, but many people are, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll all the way down. All right, you can see all my highlights here. We're going to show you something here. All right, we'll come down here, and we're going to show you home ownership rate by age and cohort. Look at the home ownership rate. Oh my goodness. We had 80% of people had homes and at this age right here, 52 to 53, but when they're 92 to 93, only 35% do. Oh my goodness, that just shows that people are spending down their assets. Oh my goodness. Vehicle ownership rate too. You can see a massive decline right there. Oh my goodness, so what just proves that Josh was wrong this whole time. then you're going to see here ownership of IRAs, stocks, and bonds by age and cohort. So if you're 52 to 53, about a little bit more than half the population has stocks, bonds, and IRAs. When you hit 92, 93, 25% of you do. Oh my goodness. Ownership of bank accounts. Oh, that's pretty stable. You can see right there, bank accounts are still 70 to 80%, and this is for people who are in the late 90s, by the way. And then we look right here, household assets by percentage of people having one. So principal residents, 55 to 59-year-olds have a house. 90 plus, only 54% have a house, all right? 40% have a house at 90 plus, which is less than half of what they were at 50, 59. 55 to 59, 42% of the population had an IRA. Only 3% of the population had an IRA at 90. So they're running out of money. And yet 35% of the population actually had stocks. And still 29% of the population had stocks at 90. So the number of people with stocks didn't drop that drastically. That's kind of weird. Interestingly, CDs went from 18% of the population has CDs in 55 to 59 to 32% of the population has CDs. Interesting. And then we're going to go to median value here as well, conditional on holding. So if you had these accounts, what is their median value? Well, if you had a stock at 52 to 53, they say you had 40,000 stocks, you had 84,000 when you're 90 plus. If you had a principal residence at 52 to 55 to 59, whatever it is, 55 to 59 is worth $127,000 and the same $2,003. It's still worth $81,000. Interesting. But let's go down here. CDs went from $10,000 at 55 to 59-year-old to $30,000. Interesting. Bank accounts went from $5,000 to $6,000. Total assets, this is everybody, went from $185,000 at 55 to 59 to $92,000 when you're 90 plus, which very few people make that. What is that telling you? So let me show you. I'm going to go back to the top and I'll show you what's going on. So these guys investigate the influence of aging and health shocks on households' various ownership of various assets and on the dollar value of those assets. We find that households decrease their ownership of most asset classes as they age, with the strongest evidence for principal residence and vehicles. All right. While increasing the share of assets held in bank accounts and CDs. We find the death of a spouse is a strong predictor of selling the principal residence. However, we find that widowhood also leads households to sell vehicles, businesses, and real estate, and to put money into bank accounts and CDs. So if the only, it's kind of like, what they say, inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. If you only focus on the too few dollars, you think if we're printing money like crazy, there's going to be inflation. You got to focus on the too few goods. The same thing here. You could easily be a charlatan, as many will do, and say, hey, older people is a strong, the death of a spouse is a strong predictor of selling the principal residence, and implying that those people are actually asset poor because they're widows. But they don't say the second part of this equation, that they're selling it to put the money in bank accounts and CDs. Interesting. Let's keep going. The ownership rates for principal residences and vehicles falls dramatically with age, while the share of total assets invested in bank accounts and CDs rises with age. We talked about the widowhood being a strong predictor in all this. All right, let's keep going here. Volumes by these researchers provide little evidence that the elderly draw down their assets substantially during retirement. But there is substantial evidence of a relocation of those assets as households age. We got here from Milligan, this guy who wrote this book, this paper, he wrote another one too. He uncovers evidence that elderly households do not sell their households or vehicles later in life, in suggestive evidence that liquid assets increase with age. So Milligan basically says people are increasing their liquid assets with age, even if they're not even selling their households. So we have a couple of conflicting areas here, but the one area is not conflicting, is that people's household savings is increasing with age in terms of CDs and bank accounts. Interesting. Many studies have found that elderly households are unlikely to consume their home equity. One guy does find that housing wealth is consumed, but is mostly among younger households. Interesting. And that's from 1996 or whatever, and that's, who knows. However, several studies have examined how changes in health affect total assets. Feinstein and Ho note the strong predictive power of the death of a spouse on drawing down of total wealth. You think? Your husband dies, you no longer have your Social Security or even a pension if you had one. Now we got to draw down wealth and we got higher taxes to pay. Is that a shocking thing? I don't think so. It makes sense. I die, my wife's now got one less income, and she has the same amount of RMDs and higher taxes to pay, essentially. Okay, she's going to draw down her wealth. Drawing down wealth isn't a bad thing. Just put that out there. Let's keep going. Home ownership is flat at 80% until the age of 80, but then drops consistently at every successive age group to about 54% by the age of 90. So even at 90 years old, the majority of those people have their homes, they own their homes outright. Okay, pretty interesting. IRA ownership falls dramatically after 70. No doubt due to the automatic withdrawal provisions. On the other hand, ownership of CDs and bonds rise over time, perhaps due to the greater liquidity and lower risk properties of those assets. Stock and bank accounts essentially are the same. They're flat with age. The median value of total assets falls considerably, starting at 80%, potentially reflecting some savings to retirement consumption. So again, it makes sense. You hit 80 years old, you might start spending down your assets to fund your retirement, and especially when you become a widow, or widower, if you will. Since wealthier households are more likely to survive, observed patterns may reflect a selection of a wealthier sample in the higher age groups, which is very interesting, because I want to point something out here. Right there. Life expectancy at 60 years old by net worth quartiles. And we got Q4, the highest net worth, at 60. Their life expectancy for men is 25 years, for women is 27.5 years. If you're in the lowest quartile, the life expectancy for men is only 18 years. So if you're 60 years old and lower net worth, you're only going to live another until you're 78. A woman will live until she's 81.5, which if you're in a lower income, you should probably take Social Security early. All right, very interesting. We come down here, too. We go life expectancy at 65. If you're in the highest category of wealth, your life expectancy is that you live until you're 86. If you're in the lowest category of wealth, your life expectancy will be that you live to 79.5 as a man. So that right there, again, so right here. Since wealthier households are more likely to survive, observed patterns may reflect a selection of a wealthier sample in a higher age group. So that makes sense. Hey, man. We're surveying people who have more wealth. Why? Because they're healthier, they're wealthier, and they're still alive. Poorer people have less wealth because they're poorer, and most likely they're going to die earlier. That's just the nature of the beast, man. Wealthier people are healthier. Poorer people are, I don't know what would rhyme with poorer, but that's what happens here. So poor people are not going to be living as long as wealthier people, and as such, they don't need a plan for 30-year retirements by and large. Let's keep going. Over a 20-year period, the share held in bank accounts and CDs is projected to increase by 6.2 percentage points, or 31% above what it was for the average, I should say, in the sample, not simple, in the average in the sample. The bank account result is intriguing. Bank accounts are dominated by other assets on a risk-return basis, yet there's an increasing proportion of household assets devoted to them with age. Why? Because they get less risky. They're more risk-averse as they get older. They want the liquidity because they're short-termers. There are several potential explanations for this finding. It may be transitory, results of windfall of insurance, pension proceeds, or whatever, Alternatively, it may be the complexity of financial arrangements that leads seniors to select portfolios that are easier to manage. 100%. And here's where they can really get you. The dollar value invested in all assets falls with age. And if they just stop there, they're charlatans and they're misleading. Because what these guys say is, except for bank accounts and CDs whose values rise with age. And just on a side note, for widowhood, only 28.2% of households survive to 89 years old without one of the partners dying. Just keep that in mind. 1/4 of you guys who are married will have both you and your wife will be around when you're 90 years old. And that's the oldest, by the way. So it's me and Charlotte. They're looking at me as a 90-year-old, even though she's 4 years younger than me. So 1/4, that means 3/4 of you will be widows by the time the oldest, again, me in my case, Josh, is 90 years old. Or 89, actually. It's 89 what they say. Just keep that in the back of your mind, man, because that's sad. We show that being widowed is associated with a sharp decrease in the probability of owning a home or a car, because the widows sell it because they move on to a nursing home, assisted living facility, or something like that. It's just, sad, but we are going to die. No, it's shocking. Widowhood is associated with an increased probability of owning a bank or CD. All right, so let's just wrap this up. What's happening here is widows sell their houses, they sell their cars, they move into an assisted living facility, a continuing care retirement community, a nursing home. And as such, they don't need a car anymore. They don't need a house anymore. And then what they do, the proceeds they put in the bank and they put in CDs. But if shenanigans, bad people, they could easily convince you that the widowhoods are running, or anyone's running out of money, because we just showed you the graphs of, oh my goodness, IRAs are going way down. The percentage of your assets and homes are going way down. They're burning through their assets. So it's just not true. They're not burning through. A little bit. They're spending out some of their money. Again, that's if you survive to 90 years old, and the likelihood of that isn't very high to begin with. In fact, let's just revisit here real quick, because I just showed you the charts on that. Is there anything else I want to talk about here? Let's see. For example, 3 periods after the effect of a widow shock is to lower the probability of, we already talked about that, home ownership. We talked about that. Health shocks have significant effects on asset values, i.e., if I have an acute issue or a chronic issue, I'm going to put more money in liquid assets as opposed to aggressive assets. It inherently makes sense. Let's see. Where we were talking about. So I want to just go back to the median values here. Yeah, median values right here. So you can see from basically 55 to 59, this is all in 2003 dollars. We had a median value of all assets of 185. By the time we hit 80 to 84, we still had a median value of 142. So it's dropped by $40,000, dude, for those 3 decades. Yeah, 3 decades. But again, people say they can, they can fudge the numbers any way they want. All right, you gotta be on the lookout for it. That's why you subscribe to this channel. If you haven't, that's why you do right now, and you also smash that like button, because no one else is gonna tell you like I do. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts.